podcast. If you've come here, it's probably because you're a Christian coach or a Christian entrepreneur who wants to sell more, but wants to do it with integrity and wants to do it in a way that's fun. I remember being a new Christian coach and not being sure whether or not I could make it. Fortunately, God blessed my business and I collected over $250,000 in revenue my first year. Now, I know that I had a few strategies that I could employ that are difficult for most Christian coaches. And that's what I help people with now. I help people learn how to sell with great integrity. I help people learn how to design and price their offers. And I help people optimize their mindset around sales and money so that they can grow the coaching business that God has called them to create. Now, this is not some prosperity gospel. This is about doing good work in a high integrity way in the marketplace that ultimately is going to lead to win-win arrangements between you and your clients. If that's what you're looking for, you've come to the right place. And today in this podcast episode, I want to talk about an idea that one of my new clients, Paul Hatcher, shared with me. Paul is a coach in London, and he's recently joined our Christian Coaches Academy. So it's cool to have an international client. We have a few clients outside of the US, and Paul's our first client from London. And I was having a call with Paul, and he told me about this idea, this triangle, as he called it, that's called good, cheap, fast. And a quick search online told me that a lot of other people are familiar with this concept as well. Some people called it the iron triangle: good, cheap, fast. And that's what I want to talk about today. The idea behind this triangle or this concept is that you can have two of the three. If you're working on a project, if you're making an offer, if you're buying somebody else's offer or engaging in somebody else's project, in almost all cases, something can be good and fast, but it's not going to be cheap. Something can be good and cheap, but if that's the case, it's not going to be fast. And something can be fast and cheap, but it's probably not going to be very good. When Paul said this to me, it made a lot of sense. I remember immediately stopping to kind of draw this out for myself. Now, if you find it online, you'll see circles or bubbles that are overlapping, and it can be modeled that way as well. But if you're following along, I'm going to give it to you one more time. Good, cheap, fast. You can have two, but you cannot have all three. If something is good and cheap, it's not going to be very fast. It's going to take a lot of time to get the result that you're after. If something is good and fast, it's not going to be cheap. If you want something done really well and you want to do it quickly, you're going to have to pay a lot to get that done. And if something is fast and cheap, it's not going to be very good. That's the get rich quick scheme in business, right? So even if you as a coach have been paying attention to online business strategies, if people are promising you something fast and cheap, you can guess it's probably not very good. It's probably not very realistic. Oftentimes, that strategy is a fantasy based strategy that doesn't produce something really good. And so, how can we utilize this? How can we take this information and use it in our business? Well, you might consider asking yourself about your offers. If you want to provide something really good and really fast for your prospects and clients, it's probably not cheap. It's probably your high ticket offer. I think about the opportunity I had this week to have Steve Thompson, one of my clients and friends, fly to Milwaukee, and we spent an entire day together. It was a solo immersion. We recorded 15 marketing videos for him, of him sharing his message. We crafted his signature offer. We identified and clarified his mission statement. We went through his content and his pillars of his business. We helped Steve develop a clear short game sales strategy, including putting together the prospect list of who he was going to sell. We practiced back and forth role playing how he was going to hold a coaching call. We role played how he was going to make his offer and close a sale at the end of a sales conversation. And we talked about his long game marketing strategies, things like his podcast, video marketing, his email newsletter, and more. So we did a ton of work. We got a lot done. We also deepened our relationship, built trust. My kids had an amazing time with him. My wife got to know Steve. This was a powerful day. It was good and it was fast. So much happened in 24 hours. But because it's good and fast, you can guess it wasn't cheap. If it's going to be good and fast, that's probably your high ticket way to work with someone. And you might consider having a good and fast offer in your signature offer list of how you work with your clients. Now, on the other hand, we have something that's good and cheap. That is our Christian Coaches Academy. We call it CCA. If you've been paying attention to the podcast, you've probably heard about CCA before. Many of you are probably in our Christian Coaches Academy. We've got over 100 amazing Christian coaches, entrepreneurs, and leaders in CCA. And CCA is only $75 a month. It's a great program. You get to meet and build relationships and network with different coaches every single week on a live call for prayer and networking. And we also share ideas there. There's a Facebook group where people can ask questions and bond with each other and celebrate each other and answer questions as well and support each other that way. And there's a directory. Everybody has their picture, their bio, their specialties in a directory with their contact info so that they can connect with the other members of the community. And we encourage coffee chats. Most people are meeting somebody new in the community every single week. They're developing relationships. They're building what I would call relational network equity. They're building relationships and investing in things that are probably going to have a significant return eventually over time, a community of relationships and our reputation in the marketplace, but that don't usually equal income immediately. And there's also a training library where people can go through 25 plus amazing trainings on how to design, launch, build, and scale a coaching business. But as we all know, do it yourself, trainings, courses, etc. Oftentimes the implementation of what we learn, if we don't have coaching, mentorship, etc., Q&A, the nuance of that, it takes a little bit of time and repetition and effort to get the result that we're after. There's nothing wrong with that. For $75 a month, CCA is a great program for somebody who wants something good and they've got a lower budget of available funds to invest in it. So it's not necessarily going to be fast, but if they're willing to put in the time over time, they can develop deep and meaningful relationships. They can learn the content. They can begin to get the repetitions necessary to build a successful business and fulfill on their vision and dreams. It's just not going to be as fast as Steve Thompson doing it all in one day with me, specific to his business. It's going to be a little bit more general. So it's going to be a little bit more slow, right? You might have the same kind of thing. Maybe you've got an offer that's really good and it's inexpensive. It's cheap. I don't love the word cheap, but I'm going to stick with the model here. So you might have an offer that's good and cheap. It's probably the sort of offer that's going to be more do it yourself, and it's usually going to take a little bit more time. It's going to be a little bit of a slower process, but it ultimately can lead people to significant success. Now, the third kind of offer here is the thing that is fast and cheap, but it's not very good. The recommendation for you here is do not make that offer. If you're considering making an offer for something that's going to promise fast results and be cheap, it's probably not a very good offer to make. It's probably not good for you, or it's not good for your clients, or it's not honest. There's something wrong there. You either need to be raising the price or you need to be increasing the quality. So stay away from making offers that are fast and cheap, but not providing on the good side of that triangle. The same thing is true with projects you're working on. I think about a project we're working on in our business. Like I built a really successful business right out of the gate. God has blessed me at Faith to Influence, and we did over 250K in revenue my first year. We've been between $250,000 and $450,000 every year for 5 years. I'm proud of that. We've built a successful business that's been pretty consistent. However, I'm working to scale. I want to go to the next level. I want to build a business that's doing $700,000, $1 million in business. I want to provide for my team at a higher level. I've got some big goals around scaling, and we're working hard to figure out the solutions to that challenge and that opportunity, right? So here's the deal. One of the things that we're working on, that we've been working on for 10 months now, is what we call the machine. We're building something, an online funnel that we hope is going to produce click and buy sales over time at scale. That's going to introduce more people to our challenge online that can help coaches in just a few days begin to build the foundation of their business. We're hoping to introduce more people to our Christian Coaches Academy. We know at only $75 a month, it's the sort of thing that people could click and buy at scale. But trying to solve that problem, all the emails, all the technology, all the ads, all the funnels, all the sequences, all the videos, all the copy. By the way, if this is sounding overwhelming, if you're a new coach, I don't recommend any of that for you. I believe it's a phase 2 project. I believe that you can build a successful multi six figure business without having any of the complicated funnels, ads, copywriting, and more that I'm talking about here. So let's keep it simple for you if you're just getting started. But in a later phase, you might decide to work on a project of scale, and maybe you'll build your version of what we're calling the machine that we've been working on every single week for 10 months. And what I've realized about it is the way that we're going about it, we want it to be really good and we want to build it relatively inexpensively. We want it to be somewhat cheap to build. Now, I've got team members, but they're primarily paid part time salaries. They're building for something that they hope is going to be a big payoff later on, that I hope is going to be a big payoff later on. They're working for a company they're passionate to serve, but they're not people who are earning $100,000 salary because they've done this before and they're super experienced and we're already established business, right? So I'm working with teammates who are willing to work at a lower number now for the opportunity to earn more later, right? So the labor piece of this is relatively cheap. Our ad spend compared to others in the marketplace is relatively small while we're testing the budget on this. We're trying to figure it out. Our technology spend is relatively small. So we're trying to build something that is really good and effective, but we're trying to build it in a cheap and thoughtful way in our budget, in terms of our budget, because we're still a startup business. So if we're going to build something that is good and cheap, it's not going to be fast, right? So we're 10 months in and we've still got time to go on this. Like we have not cracked the code on this yet. This is going to be a multi-year project to get to the level we wanted. If we wanted to make that project good and fast, we might want to hire an expert. I might want to join a mastermind that costs 30 grand or 50 grand or 100 grand. And there are places in the marketplace where you can pay that much and have a lot more done for you services, and they can fast track your success. Or if I had a significant amount of money to invest, we could spend more into ads. We could test at a higher level sooner. You know, it's been said in the marketplace that whoever can pay the most for a lead wins. And we're not playing that game right now. So there is a way to go fast and do it well, be good, but it's going to cost a lot more. And we're not really able to do that. The other option would be to try to go fast and do it inexpensively or cheap. And we know that that's a failing strategy because it's not going to be very good. The foundation is going to be very weak. And so this is just a good way to evaluate the offers you're providing to clients, the offers that you're paying for in the marketplace, and the way that you approach, from a mindset perspective, the projects you're pursuing in your business, knowing that things can be good, they can be fast, they can be cheap, and they might be able to be two of the three, but not all three. If you want to be good and fast, can't be cheap. If you want to be good and cheap, it's not going to be fast. And if you want to be cheap and fast, it's probably not going to be very good. I hope that this lesson that Paul shared with me that just inspired me to like really scratch my head and think a little bit, it just made a lot of sense for me, caused me to contemplate and ponder and process. I hope this calls you into a similar kind of processing, and I hope it's valuable for you and your business and future investment decisions that you make. If you've got questions or we can help, feel free to send me an email, justin@faith2influence.com. I'd be happy to share more light, get to know you. I'd be happy to book a free coaching call with you and get to learn a little bit more about your business and where you're at and share our offerings based on what your needs are. Let me know if I can help. In the meantime, God bless you. Have an amazing week, and I'll see y'all soon. Cheers.